Hey everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Christian Fioravanti with Republicans for Independence, and you can find our website and our work at republicansforindependence.org. We're actually going to be joined today by the author Rosa Koire, who is the executive director of the Post-Sustainability Institute. And let me just give you a little bit of background on her before we get started here. Rosa Koire is a forensic commercial real estate appraiser specializing in eminent domain valuation. Her 28-year career as an expert witness on land use has culminated in exposing the impacts of sustainable development on private property rights and individual liberty. Over the course of the legal challenge that Koire has gone through, she became aware of the source of the planning revolution she had observed over more than 10 years, UN Agenda 21. Through research, she found that much of the funding to implement local Agenda 21 sustainable development land use programs comes through the diversion of property taxes to redevelopment agencies. Her work in providing information and solutions for communities fighting Agenda 21 has spread across the nation as more and more people became aware of the increased restrictions on their property rights and the methods used to implement social engineering. Now, through her website, DemocratsAgainstUNAgenda21.com, and her grassroots tactical organization, Santa Rosa Neighborhood Coalition, she, with other community leaders, has enabled activists on many seemingly unconnected issues to come together and fight their source, UN Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. Now, in 2010, the nonprofit organization she and her partner founded was expanded in scope and renamed the Post-Sustainability Institute. Rosa speaks nationally on UN Agenda 21, blogs regularly on the Democrats' website, and is the author of Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21. So with that, I'd like to welcome Rosa Koire. We're very glad that you could be here with us today, so thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Rosa, we're very glad to have you here. In fact, it's really great that you were able to join us, and I appreciate that so much because we have a lot of people here locally in our area, the Sacramento area, Roseville, Rockland, all around here in Placer County that really doesn't know a whole lot about UN Agenda 21 and what it's actually doing here. Been to a lot of the local Tea Party meetings and things where they're kind of figuring out what it is and they're trying to learn more about it, but even they aren't super educated on the subject. All right, well, the first thing I want to go over, Rosa, is, like I said, most people have never really heard of UN Agenda 21, and maybe they've heard of smart growth or sustainable living, but they really don't know what any of that really means. So do you have like a really short explanation to kind of give them of overall what it is?
Yes, United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development is a program, an action plan that was signed on to by 179 nations back in 1992, including the United States. George H.W. Bush signed on for the U.S. And this is a United Nations program. It is a blueprint. It is the action plan to inventory and control all land, water, minerals, plants, animals, information, construction, education, energy, and human beings in the world. It's a totally comprehensive plan. It is designed to change the way that human beings impact the planet, and it is being implemented in every nation in the world right now, including the United States. And it's a stealth plan that hides in plain sight. It is very seldom referred to as Agenda 21, which, in fact, the name Agenda 21 is the agenda for the 21st century, and that is what the United Nations calls it. And you will see it in your town as sustainable development or as a land use plan. Your general plan, your comprehensive plan, or your master plan is imbued with sustainable development, Agenda 21 standards, and all elements. I think it's really important for people to know that even though they're going to be told that no one sees Agenda 21 in their town, and that even if it were there, it's a non-binding, voluntary agreement that was made at the United Nations by the United States in 1992. And so since it's non-binding and voluntary, then it has no impact in the United States. That is a lie. In fact, you can draw the direct line from United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development and its signing in 1992 by George H.W. Bush directly into your town and your general plan or your comprehensive plan by just taking a look at what happened right after George Bush signed on to it. Now, it's true it's non-binding and voluntary, But since it was signed onto by the United States and then implemented in the United States, it is in fact binding. So in 1993, when Clinton took office, about 6 months later, in June of 93, he created the President's Council on Sustainable Development. And the sole purpose of that was to implement United Nations Agenda 21 in the United States. There were 12 cabinet-level federal agencies on that President's Council on Sustainable Development, including HUD, Department of Transportation, EPA, Education, Energy, and Defense. And they all agreed, and many more, and they agreed to change federal policy to bring it into alignment with United Nations Agenda 21. The first thing that they did, and this group included captains of industry, nonprofit, primarily environmental groups, and others besides the federal agencies. The first thing that they did was they gave a multi-million-dollar grant to the American Planning Association to create a document that would assist cities and counties across the United States in implementing Agenda 21 in their local municipality. And it took them about 6 years to come up with this book. It's called Growing Smart Legislative Guidebook with Model Statutes for Planning and the Management of Change. And that is what you're seeing the result of in your town, because that is actually crafting your general plan, your comprehensive plan, your master plan for your city. And so this is how it works. And they used Sustainable America, a new consensus, another thing that they had paid for, that they had commissioned. And that is where your visioning meetings are coming out of. So this is not, we're not talking about something that's non-binding and voluntary anymore. We're talking about directives from the federal government that are impacting you in your local government.
And Rosa, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it right to say that every president since George Bush Sr. has actually carried through this plan up until today?
Oh, absolutely. This is nonpartisan. So every president, both Bushes, Clinton, and Obama, are implementing United Nations Agenda 21 all across the country.
And Rosa, oftentimes at the local level, there is an organization called ICLEI that works with our city governments and town councils. And for example, here in the town of Loomis, actually locally, they're working with a partnership with PG&E and ICLEI on their greenhouse gas emissions. And so can you explain a little bit about who ICLEI really is and how they affect what happens locally to us?
Yes, it's really important to understand that ICLEI, which those are letters that stand for the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. Now they call themselves Local Governments for Sustainability. It was created as a non-governmental spin-off by the United Nations in 1990 to implement Agenda 21 locally across the world. It's a public-private partnership, and it is headquartered in Bonn, Germany. It's really a lobbying and policy group, and it's designed to influence and change local government policies related to all aspects of our lives. They say on their website that they are only in 1,200 cities around the world, but actually they're in 7,800 cities worldwide. That's nearly 1 billion people that are in ICLEI cities. And basically what they're doing is they're concentrating power in cities so that circumvents requirements for ratification of international treaties. And that will give the illusion of local control. But in fact, what they do is they break jurisdictional boundaries, which is the whole point of Agenda 21 is global governance. So it breaks jurisdictional boundaries, and it actually allies cities and regional conglomerates, and that destroys local control. It ultimately will facilitate global governance by invalidating individual cities, counties, states, and ultimately nations using contractual agreements and interwoven systems. So it's really actually a parallel government being implemented right now all across the world.
It is very sinister, and it's amazing they've been able to accomplish what they have without people waking up to it. And kind of breaking that down even more here, Rosa, everywhere we're seeing local governments putting in roundabouts, bike trails, and multi-use high density housing, and it's usually concentrating in the downtown areas. And this is what's happening in our town here of Roseville. So can you tell us a little bit more about the true agenda here, and is this a part of Agenda 21?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, unfortunately, like I like to say, you're going to have to look long and hard to find anything that isn't part of Agenda 21 right now. But what you and I are doing right now is not part of Agenda 21. This is educating the populace so that we understand what's going on. So yes, all of those things, this is why I called my book Behind the Green Mask, because the green mask of environmentalism and concern for human impacts on the planet is being used to actually implement the globalization of all of our systems. So basically what globalization is the standardization of all systems. And when you have inventory and control, this is an inventory and control plan. So all of these little, things that seem so neat, it's like, oh, let's have a bike path that runs behind everybody's house where they used to, back up to a creek, but now we're going to open basically we're going to open a road back there that now can be monitored and controlled by law enforcement. And this is a surveillance plan. Agenda 21 is you can't control what you don't know you have. It's about inventory management and surveillance through standardization of systems. So whether it's a land use plan or it's a law enforcement plan like Department of Justice community policing, or whether you have smart grid, which is control of all energy, or educational systems through Common Core or direct instruction mastery learning, and I can go on. It impacts every single system, and it's all about bringing every single element of our lives into uniformity so that we can be more easily monitored and controlled. And this is what your bike paths, this is all about being able to manage a populace. So if you can control their mobility and actually be able to track their whereabouts, then you can control the population.
Right, that's what it's all about, is the control. And I just want to do a plug really fast, Rosa, for your book. Again, Behind the Green Mask breaks all of this stuff down. It goes into detail about everything having to do with UN Agenda 21. And I really didn't know personally a whole lot about any of this stuff until I actually got your book and read it. It is absolutely fantastic. It's the only book I've seen on it, and it really will educate you thoroughly. And it's a great thing to take out there and give to your city council members, give it to your planning people and your commissions and all those, and get it in the hands of those supervisors so they know what's going on and can actually help you to fight in your area. So definitely check that out. And going a little bit further here, Rosa, on the surface, the public-private partnerships sound like a great idea. Many of the redevelopment projects are funded and managed through public-private partnerships, and in the city of Roseville, we have the Roseville Community Redevelopment Corporation. And it's a private corporation that was given a $5 million loan by the city of Roseville, who is spearheading our downtown redevelopment project that includes less parking, major bike trails, a roundabout, and multi-use housing. And Roseville also contributes to another partnership called Advantage Roseville, where the city and private businesses both contribute $100,000 a year to increase business in Roseville. And without the mayor even knowing, the Roseville Community Redevelopment Corporation took over operations for the Advantage Roseville program. So in your experience, how do these public-private partnerships dovetail into the whole Agenda 21 action plan?
That's an excellent question, and let me just tell you that your Roseville Community Development Corporation, which is a nonprofit 501c3 public-private partnership, is mainly made up of real estate developers and bankers. So that's what you've got running that, and that is actually it's exemplary of what we have coming down the pike all across the United States, which is that we are losing our representative government, and instead it is being replaced with appointed boards and regional committees that actually are not accountable to the people in any way. And this is an example, a public-private partnership that's a corporation that is actually designed to, identify cronies, redistribute your tax dollars for specialized programs that are not transparent. And what we're finding all across the United States is that the money for this is coming from federal government grants, specifically the Sustainable Community Regional Planning grants from HUD, DOT, and EPA. And so when you find that, for instance, what you've got going there in Sacramento with your Sacramento Council of Governments, SACOG, you've got Sacramento Council of Governments, which is a council of government, and it's also the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Now, these are all across the United States. There are 500 of them in the U.S., and they are not elected by the people. They are regional boards, and they determine how federal funds and state transportation dollars are going to be allocated. But the new thing that's happening all across the nation is that these plans are being used to actually determine what kind of housing gets built and where it's built, and it is funded through the federal government. So what we're seeing with these planning grants is that these are supposed to be ground up, grassroots generated, you asked for it kind of planning choices that are happening in your town. But in fact, it's the same plan all across the United States. This plan is exactly the same plan. The Roseville, Sacramento Blueprint project is exactly the same plan as every single plan across the United States and across the world.
Right, that's exactly right. Yeah, and we've been to a lot of these meetings. We've been going to many of them, not only here in Roseville, but also in other cities and areas. And it is the same. I mean, every single meeting, it's exactly the same. We've been to a lot of these vision meetings and learn more about what goes on. And it's amazing. I mean, they say it's your plan, it's your, it's your ideas. Just put some input on these little notepads here, and stick them up on the wall, and we'll take a look at them. I mean, great job what you guys have created for your town. It's just fantastic. And yeah, that's right. It's exactly the same everywhere you go. And you mentioned regional planning a little bit, Rose, and I want to get into that. So what is regional planning, and specifically, what is SACOG?
Well, let me just first say that obviously planning is good. Everybody, you got up this morning, you planned to do, to interview me. We all plan. And of course, regional transportation planning is good because you don't want your road, your highway to end at the end of your city or your county. You need connectivity in transportation. So planning isn't, I am not against planning. This goes way beyond planning though. What this is central planning and social engineering. And it is given the veneer or the illusion that this is all coming from the people, that this is their plan. And that is a lie. So the SACOG, Sacramento County, what is it? It's Sacramento Council of Governments, and that includes 6 counties. It's 6 counties and 22 cities. So that's huge. It's regional, right? So when you have a seat on that regional board, if you're a city, you have very little voice in where that money, where the federal transportation dollars and the state monies are going. This is all, basically distributed through a matrix that rewards urban locations. And the plan is designed to move people out of rural and suburban areas into rural areas, into urban areas where they can be more easily managed and controlled. So what you're seeing is high-density development being rewarded by either being exempted from CEQA restrictions or being awarded more money through planning grants or development grants, or these, your Roseville Community Development Corporation that's going to be pushing Agenda 21 high-density smart growth development. So this is what SACOG is designed to do, is actually direct your transportation dollars to specific locations that agree to implement smart growth, which is the preferred design style of United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development.